Donald Trump actually said our new military will bring back new focus on fitness. I love the idea that Trump is lecturing these guys on fitness. I mean, if that isn't the fondue pot calling the kettle fat, I don't know what is. Listen up, generals. I want to make something very clear. The Pillsbury Dough president wants you to do Pilates. The only push-ups Donald Trump does are from the side of an ice cream truck. If you get so fat you start breaking escalators, you are unfit to serve in the military.
Heard from Erica Kirk. She said she forgives the man who shot and killed her husband. And then right after that, we heard from the president who said, I hate my opponent and I don't want the best for them. How does that square with bringing down the temperature of political violence in this country?
Look, the president is authentically himself. I think that's why millions of Americans across the country love him and support him, including Erica Kirk, who you saw so beautifully was on stage with the
Donald Trump is absolutely losing it right now as his attempt to cover up the cold-blooded murder of Alex Jeffrey Peretti has utterly failed. Donald Trump is stunned as his own MAGA base is turning against him based on this despicable cover-up. Donald Trump is seeing groups like the NRA turning against him. Donald Trump is seeing MAGA Republicans in the House and Senate turning against him. Donald Trump is seeing
Jimmy Kimmel just roasted Karoline Leavitt so brutally on live TV that Trump completely lost it and the entire White House went into panic mode damage control. We're breaking down everything that happened. But before we dive in, quick request, if you enjoy this kind of independent reporting, consider joining our membership. It's only $9 a month, less than a cup of coffee, and it helps keep this channel going strong. All right, now back to the madness.
Yesterday, there's this video of what seemed to be garbage bags being thrown out of the window of the Lincoln bedroom. That's the White House. The official response from the White House said it was maintenance work being done while Trump was off on one of his many golf weekends. But Trump is even contradicting his own White House now.
There's a video that is circulating online now of the White House where a window is open to the residence upstairs and somebody is throwing a big bag out the window. Have you seen this?
No, well, Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
Mixed signals in terms of what that looks like. But on
inflation is down from where it was. As measured by the overall CPI, it has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. This is down from what the president inherited. The president inherited 2.9% in January. Today it's at about 2.5%. So we're trending in the right direction with more to come. And I would remind you, when President Trump left office in his first term, inflation was 1.7%. And the previous administration jacked it up to a record high 9%. So again, in 10 months, the president has clawed us out of this hole. He's kept it low at 2.5%, and we believe that number is going to continue to decline.
MAGA influencers. He's seeing groups like Barstool turn against him. He's seeing far right-wing writers turn against him. He's seeing other Second Amendment advocates turning against him. You see, Donald Trump has overplayed his hand in trying to engage in his most despicable cover-up yet, and the American people are seeing this for the watershed moment that it is. Frankly, the people in the United States should have been well aware of this before.
Karoline Leavitt is the youngest White House press secretary in American history, just 28 years old, and she clearly thought she could handle the criticism from late-night comedians. But Jimmy Kimmel has spent the last year systematically shredding her credibility on national television, and his attacks have become so savage that even Trump felt forced to step in and defend her.
The only push-ups Donald Trump does are from the side of an ice cream truck. If you get so fat you start breaking escalators, you are unfit to serve in the military. So, unfortunately, fantasy is more powerful than reality in this MAGA sphere we live in, which meant it was time for our commander-in-cheeseburger to weigh in on one of the most pressing issues our military faces today: unattractive
Absolutely not. In fact, I'd like to see some of the people who actually said that to AOC and check their ballots and see if they actually voted for President Trump, because I can assure you MAGA Republicans oppose everything that AOC and the modern day Communist Democrat Party stands for. Mass migration and open borders like we saw under the Biden administration.
But this has now reached a fever pitch as Donald Trump and his regime attempted to defame Alex Peretti after he was brutally murdered in cold blood by the Border Patrol Gestapo. By now, I'm sure you know most of the facts, that Alex Peretti was at a peaceful protest in Minneapolis. A female protester was being brutalized by Trump's Border Patrol Gestapo. She was being pepper sprayed. Alex Peretti saw what was happening. He went to help.
From mocking her public image to exposing her desperate defenses of Trump's most insane statements, Kimmel has turned Leavitt into a walking punchline. And the funniest part? Every time she responds, she only makes it worse, handing him even more material.
What's your response to that? And can you say anything to allay concerns that unfavorable coverage will be punished in this new press system?
I think that's the same individual who said from this podium numerous times that the commander-in-chief was mentally and physically up for the job, which we knew was a lie. Many people in this room knew it was a lie. Many of you were admonished for asking questions about that truth. So when it comes to truth and transparency, this administration, this White House is setting the example. This president is taking far more questions than his predecessor, Joe Biden, did on a daily basis, and that will continue.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
The female protester. That's when the Border Patrol Gestapo started pepper spraying Peretti. They then started beating on him. They gang tackled him. They threw him to the floor. They bludgeoned him over and over again. And then they shot him repeatedly, at least 11 times. And Peretti was killed. Thereafter, the Trump regime tried to frame Peretti and say it was because he had a concealed handgun. Well, then it turned out that he did indeed have a concealed handgun, but he was a...
This is the story of how America's biggest late-night host has been destroying Trump's press secretary one joke at a time. And it all started with one moment, January 28, 2025. Kimmel was listing Trump's new administration appointments, and he brought up Leavitt becoming the youngest press secretary ever.
I spoke to the police chief of Portland last week. He said that the president's claims just don't match up with what's happening on the ground.
I would encourage you as a reporter to go on the ground and to take a look at it for yourself, because there's been many members of the press, not press in this room, but independent journalists, some of whom we'll be inviting to the White House very soon to share their stories, because they have been in the middle of these riots and they have witnessed the anarchy that is taking place night after night. It's on video. You should play it on your show. You have a great opportunity on prime time on CNN to show your audience. Yeah, but you're probably talking to partisan Democrat officials.
The presidential ketchup boat is filled to the brim and ready to go. This morning on the freshly paved over Rose Garden, our commander-in-chief presided over an important American tradition, the annual pardon of the turkeys, which at this point are the only thing Trump hasn't pardoned this year. These are the birds that were spared. Their names are Gobble and Waddle, which is what Trump does every night at dinner. Gobble and Waddle. Thank you. Gobble and Waddle spent the night last night in a luxury suite at the Willard Hotel, which must be a real treat for the housekeeping staff at the Willard Hotel. And I wonder who's in that room tonight. Like, what the hell?
Legal permit holder of a concealed handgun. He never took the handgun out of its holster. The handgun was where it was supposed to be the entire time. It's exactly why we have a Second Amendment. And in fact, what appears to have taken place is that Trump's Border Patrol Gestapo went into the holster, took out the handgun. Then when there was no handgun in sight, when there was no threat whatsoever, and by the way, there was no threat whatsoever the entire time.
For a split second, it sounded like he might give her credit, but then he landed what might be one of the most brutal one-sentence takedowns in late-night history. She's married to a much older real estate mogul, which means, in that case, you're hired.
What are these, milk duds? What happened in here? Waddle then, after his five-star stay, woke up early enough to make an appearance in the White House press room.
Hi, Waddle. Oh my goodness, he's a beautiful bird. Yes, they're... Oh, want to give us a gobble?
See, fascists have fun, too. It's fun. Waddle then gobbled for the gaggle and then made way.
Especially as energy and oil prices continue to decline as well.
It wasn't high under Biden. They're just saying it's not.
Well, nobody reported on it being high under Biden. My predecessor was standing at this podium, but now you want to ask me a lot of questions about it, which I'm happy to answer. But I will just add, there's a lot more scrutiny on this issue from this press corps than there was. Well, in the previous administration said that too. My predecessor stood up at this podium and she said inflation doesn't exist. She said the border was secure, and people like you just took her at her word, and those were two utter lies. Everything I'm telling you is the truth backed by real factual data, and you just don't want to report on it because you want to push untrue narratives about the president.
The Border Patrol Gestapo murdered Alex Peretti in cold blood. We're learning lots of information about Peretti. What an incredible, courageous person he is. He's the type of hero who did exactly what he did before he was brutally murdered by Trump's Border Patrol Gestapo, where he helped the female protester who was being brutalized by the Gestapo. Peretti was an ICU nurse. He worked at the Minneapolis VA. And from all of
the audience erupted because in that single line, Kimmel delivered 3 devastating blows. He exposed Leavitt's massive age gap marriage, implied she didn't earn the job on merit, and took a direct shot at Trump's own history of surrounding himself with people who mirror his questionable personal choices.
The President of the United States.
The turkeys being pardoned today go by the names of Gobble and Waddle. When I first saw their pictures, I thought we should send them, well, I shouldn't say this. I was gonna call them Chuck and Nancy. But then I realized I wouldn't be pardoning them. I would never pardon those two people. I wouldn't pardon them. I wouldn't care what Melania told me. Darling, I think it would be a nice thing to do. I won't do it, darling.
I like when he takes us inside his relationship. Darling, why do you throw up when I open my robe? What are you doing, darling? Now, most presidents at the turkey pardon keep it light. They make a few bad puns, they wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and they go back to work. But that's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump used the opportunity to brag about all the wars he's ending, how low his imaginary prices are now, and out of nowhere took shots at the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois.
The mayor who's a low IQ person. The mayor is incompetent, and the governor is a big fat slob.
ICE agents generally, and earlier on, Secretary Nunn spoke to the media, and she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 US citizens were detained by ICE, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed an unjustified.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist, and it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat. But you're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing.
Family members of his patients and the patients that he treated at the VA, everybody describes him as one of the most incredible people ever. He's someone who dedicated his life to service. That's why he was working at the VA. He's someone who was very much involved in the sciences and the medicine, trying to always make people's lives better. He was an outdoorsman, a dog dad, and an all-around incredible person. And when the Trump regime immediately came out with
And Leavitt has been dealing with public backlash about her marriage since her engagement in 2023. Every photo she posts online gets flooded with cruel comments, asking if that's her husband or her grandfather. even when she tried defending it in interviews, she somehow made it sound even more uncomfortable.
And in women's sports is something MAGA Republicans and frankly the whole country rejects. It's a 90-10 issue, taxing people to death and taking their money and giving the majority of your income back to the government. That's a horrible idea that has not worked for thousands of years. MAGA Republicans know it, and that's why they overwhelmingly voted to re-elect President Trump. And a Democrat that you had in your monologue actually was right about one thing. I don't know his name, but I give him credit for his statement where he said that the Republican Party under President Trump is the party of the working man and woman. And because of President Trump's pro-growth, America First policies, he has spoken directly to the hearts of the forgotten men and women across this country. And that's who the Republican Party is today, thanks to him.
Well, Newsom, every day is a nightmare now. My wife and I have family in Minneapolis. They're afraid to take their kids to school. They're afraid to go to work. And I can only imagine how people who aren't white feel about this. Can we agree that peaceful protesters, including moms driving SUVs on their way back after dropping their 6-year-old off at school, and a nurse who stepped in to protect a woman from harm, don't deserve to be shot dead in the street by the people we are paying to protect us? Can we agree on that? I mean,
trying to frame Peretti, calling him a domestic terrorist, saying that because he had a concealed carry permit that he deserved to be murdered by the Border Patrol Gestapo. Donald Trump, Greg Bovino, Kristi Noem. Bovino heads the Border Patrol. Kristi Noem heads the Department of Homeland Security. She's the DHS secretary. They all came out with statements. Why in the world would you concealed carry at a protest? You're not allowed to do that. You're going to die. And then so people were asking so.
But Kimmel wasn't finished. Then came October 15th, 2025, when things got genuinely disturbing. Trump, aboard Air Force One, started talking about Leavitt to reporters, asking if she was doing a good job or if she should be replaced. And then, unbelievably, he began commenting on her appearance. He talked about her face, her lips, saying they move like a machine gun.
With all due respect to former President Obama, he has no idea what he's talking about. The decision to fire Jimmy Kimmel and to cancel his show came from executives at ABC. That has now been reported, and I can assure you it did not come from the White House, and there was no pressure given from the President of the United States. And how do I know that, Kaylee? Because I was with the President of the United States when this news broke in the United Kingdom. We were enjoying the beautiful and spectacular state visit that was put forth.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the 4th stage of grief, construction. Demolition. Construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
You're saying that if you peacefully protest, First Amendment right, conceal carry with the legal permit, Second Amendment right, you deserve to be shot and killed, you deserve to be murdered? What the hell are you talking about? And folks, the impact of Donald Trump's disastrous cover-up and this brutal murder is now reverberating across the country and across the world. I'm going to do another video about it this morning, but there's an entire...
Kimmel played the clip on his show and could barely hide the disgust. Does the White House not have HR? He joked as the audience groaned. Because this wasn't just weird, it was creepy, inappropriate, and completely unhinged. The point was obvious. Trump wasn't acting like a president. He was acting like someone who shouldn't be anywhere near power.
Who are opposed to everything this president does. You should also ask the people who live in Portland. We've actually heard from many members of the community who have said that this is complete civil disobedience. It's a mess. It's been loud. It's been troubling for neighbors in the community who are just trying to live peacefully. And these people are not there to peacefully protest. They are there to cause mayhem and havoc.
Yeah, Karoline. I guess in a way, The fact that he thinks he's thin enough to make fun of fat people makes it easier to understand why he thinks we think gas costs $2 a gallon, which it does not. In fact, if you're on the road and you see a sign that says gas $2 a gallon over the break, do me a favor and post that with the hashtag Gasolini, because, I mean, he says it's $2 a gallon. It must be true. They say this Thanksgiving could see the most travel in 15 years. AAA says there'll be at least 73 million.
You didn't really fight on the front lines, that you're a sucker and a loser, and that other nations didn't sacrifice with the United States. That created massive international backlash. Then that led to earlier yesterday morning, where the murder of Alex Peretti took place. And then right before that, Donald Trump made these statements attacking Prime Minister Carney and Canada. Let's take a look at what's happening as well. You have the Republican chairman, Representative Garabirino, who's formally requested testimony from ICE.
And Kimmel called it out in front of millions. But the most recent and possibly most devastating roast came just 2 weeks ago, January 16th, 2026. Trump told Reuters that maybe the 2026 midterm elections shouldn't even happen because he's accomplished so much. Let that sink in. The President of the United States openly floating the idea of canceling elections.